This story is about Nikolas Jacob Cruz, a 19-year-old man who committed a mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida on February 14, 2018. He killed 14 teenagers and 3 staff members and injured 17 others. At the time of this video, the trial is still ongoing. These opinions are for entertainment purposes only. If you like hearing stories about people who suck, click the like button and remember to subscribe. Nikolas Jacob Cruz was born on September 24, 1998 in Margate, Florida. His biological mother is Brenda Woodard, who has a lengthy criminal history that includes convictions for battery, grand theft, and drug possession. She has also been accused of beating someone half to death with a tire iron. Cruz's biological father is unknown. Cruz's biological mother was arrested for buying crack cocaine while she was pregnant with Cruz. Her use of drugs and alcohol while she was pregnant with him would eventually lead to Cruz being developmentally delayed. These mental problems would eventually contribute to his acts of violence. Cruz would later claim to have multiple personality disorder and blame his actions on another personality called hatred. Woodard refused to take any responsibility for her son's murderous actions. She was living in a government-funded accommodation in Dania Beach, Florida, when Cruz reached out to her. They talked via video chat because Cruz said he was desperate to meet her and she said this was something that she had to do. Months later, Woodard died of cancer. Her friend and neighbor, Doug Clark, said that she told him that she gave up Cruz for adoption because he was conceived when she was assaulted and that he would have been better off being raised by other people. Cruz was adopted by Linda and Roger Cruz shortly after being born. A year later, Woodard gave birth to Cruz's half-brother, Zachary. Zachary was also adopted by Linda and Roger Cruz. Cruz also has an older half-sister named Daniela Woodard, who is currently in prison serving an 8-year sentence on several charges, including second-degree attempted murder of a police officer, cocaine possession, battery, fleeing from a law enforcement officer, and credit card fraud. Linda and Roger Cruz married late in life and were extremely happy when they adopted Nikolas and Zachary. At first, it seemed like they would be one big happy family, but tragedy struck. Roger died from a heart attack when Nikolas was only 6 years old. The family was devastated by this loss, and it only added to the behavioral issues that Nikolas was already having. When Cruz was in middle school, he had 26 different disciplinary incidents occur within a year. He would later transfer to Cross Creek School, which offered psychiatric and other clinical services on campus for students with emotional or behavioral problems. When Nikolas was 14, the cops responded to the Cruz home with reports that he was throwing his mother against the wall after she took away his Xbox. She called the police and also told them that her son had anger issues and ADHD. Cruz eventually enrolled in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, the same public school that he would eventually shoot up. While in high school, Cruz was in JROTC and was a member of his school's varsity air rifle team. While Cruz was in high school, the cops received a report that Cruz posted a photo of himself with guns on Instagram saying that he planned to shoot up the school. The sheriff's office forwarded the information to the school resource officer, but nothing was done. This happened when Cruz was 17 years old, 2 years before the shooting. Don't say there weren't any warning signs. When Cruz was 18, he drank gasoline and cut himself in an attempted suicide. He was obviously unsuccessful, but afterwards he talked about buying a gun. Afterwards, the Florida Department of Children and Families opened a case on Cruz and called him a vulnerable adult due to mental illness. They eventually closed the case and concluded that Cruz was a low risk and that he takes his meds and keeps his mental health appointments. The report also stated that Cruz suffered from depression, ADHD, and autism. Cruz was eventually expelled from high school for threatening to kill his ex-girlfriend named Emily and fighting her new boyfriend Connor. Other students described Cruz as a very sketchy kid and they would try to keep their distance from him. After getting kicked out of high school, Cruz would enroll in an alternative learning program that offered high school diplomas and vocational training to students who got kicked out or dropped out of traditional schools. That same year, Cruz bought at least 10 weapons, all rifles and shotguns, including the AR-15 rifle used in the school shooting. A user named Nikolas Cruz left a comment on a YouTube channel belonging to a Mississippi bail bondsman named Ben Benite. The comment stated, "I'm going to be a professional school shooter." Benite took a screenshot of the comment and alerted the FBI and YouTube. The FBI interviewed Benite, but they were unable to find and arrest the owner of the account. Cruz also joined an Instagram group called Murica under the account name Annihilator, where he repeatedly posted racist, homophobic, and anti-Semitic remarks. He also posted obsessively about violence and guns. He wrote that he hated Mexicans even though his last name is Cruz. He wrote that he hated black people even though he has a black brother. He wrote that he hated Jews. In one of his rants, he wrote that his biological mother was a Jew, and he was glad that he never met her. He also bragged about buying body armor and killing animals. When he was 19, his adopted mom, Linda Cruz, died of pneumonia at age 68. After she died, Linda's friend Roxanne Deschamps took in Nikolas and Zachary, who lived in her home in Lake Worth, Florida, about 30 miles north of Parkland. She forbade Nikolas from bringing his guns into her home and warned the police that he might try to harm himself or others. The cops said that there was nothing they could do. After countless arguments and an incident where Nikolas hit her son, Deschamps finally had enough and kicked Nikolas out of her house. Deschamps said that although Nikolas Cruz was 19 years old at the time, she felt that he was mentally and emotionally like a 12-year-old. Cruz left the Deschamps house and moved in with the family of one of his friends, the Sneeds. Deschamps warned the Sneeds about Cruz being dangerous. Cruz's aunt, Catherine Blaine, also contacted them and informed them that Cruz was violent, dangerous, infatuated with guns and knives, untrustworthy, and threatened to kill people, among other things. James and Kimberly Sneed ignored the warnings because they thought they could handle Cruz and allowed him to store his guns in their house. The Sneeds regret ever taking in Cruz and have given a public apology, but defend his right to own guns. On February 14, 2018, Cruz took an Uber to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, carrying a rifle case and a backpack. The Uber driver named Laura Zacchini testified that Cruz seemed anxious and nervous and said that he was going to music class, which is why he had the case. After Cruz got to the school, he entered Building 12, a 3-story building with 30 classrooms that typically had about 900 students and 30 teachers in it. He stopped in a stairwell where he assembled an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. He ran into a student in the stairwell named Christopher McKenna. Instead of shooting him, Cruz said to get out of here and things are about to get bad, and let McKenna go. McKenna ran out of the building as he heard the sound of gunshots behind him. He found Aaron Feiss, an assistant football coach who doubled as a security guard, and told him what happened. Feiss drove McKenna to safety using a golf cart before he returned to confront the shooter. Feiss was killed by Cruz in the hallway. The armed school resource deputy named Scott Peterson did not go inside to shoot Cruz, but instead waited outside. He was criticized, fired, and then charged for failing to confront Cruz during the massacre. Peterson was later charged with 11 counts, including child neglect, culpable negligence, and perjury. If convicted, he faces a potential maximum sentence of nearly 100 years. At the time of this video, Peterson's trial has been rescheduled for February 27, 2023. Cruz killed 17 people and injured 17 others in the shooting. He then dropped his rifle and fled the scene by blending in with the fleeing students. After the shooting, he went to a nearby Subway and bought a drink before walking to McDonald's, where he would run into a student named John Wilford. Wilford had evacuated the school and was waiting at McDonald's for his mom to pick him up. Cruz sat down beside Wilford and started talking to him. Wilford just assumed that Cruz was a fellow student who had also evacuated the school. Little did he know that Cruz was the shooter and that he had just shot Wilford's sister, Madeline. Madeline survived the attack, but was badly injured in the shooting. Cruz tried to get a ride from Wilford, but Wilford had a bad gut feeling, so he declined to give Cruz a ride. Cruz kept insisting on getting a ride, but Wilford kept getting a bad feeling from Cruz and kept saying no. After leaving McDonald's, Cruz was spotted walking down the street by officers and was arrested. Police body cam footage showed Cruz handcuffed, laying on the ground, saying things like, "The demons, man. Where are the voices? Where am I? What happened?" Cruz then started crying. Later, he was complaining about labored breathing and was taken to the emergency room. After being released from the hospital, he was then booked into the Broward County Jail while wearing a hospital nightgown. Cruz gave a confession while he was in police custody. After confessing, Cruz said, "Kill me," to the camera. Nikolas Cruz's brother, Zachary Cruz, visited him in the interrogation room. Zachary said things like, "People think you're a monster now. You're not acting like yourself. This is not who you are." Zachary tried reaching out by sending a message on Instagram a couple days prior to the shooting, but did not get a response from Nikolas. Zachary reminded him that in the hospital, when their mom died, he told him he had his back. When they were growing up, Zachary did not want to say that he loved his brother because he did not want to appear weak. But in the interrogation room, he said that he loved his brother with all his heart. Zachary said that people say that he's crazy because he said that he still loves his brother, even though Nikolas committed a mass murder. But Zachary didn't care, and that he still loves his brother. At that point, Nikolas burst into tears. Zachary then gave Nikolas a hug and said that he loved him, and Nikolas said that he loved him too. Zachary then said that Nikolas threw away his entire future, including his future plans to join the army. Zachary also said that he felt guilty because he was a dumb jerk who made fun of Nikolas when they were growing up. He felt guilty because he didn't hang out with Nikolas when they were younger. Zachary was into skateboarding, so he would only hang out with his skater friends, while Nikolas was only interested in guns. Zachary said that he wishes he could have prevented what happened. At that point, Nikolas admitted that he was a failure. When the time for visitation was over, Zachary said that he would visit Nikolas as much as he can and that he cared about him, and gave him another hug and told Nikolas not to hurt himself or kill himself and to stay strong. On March 7, 2018, a grand jury indicted Cruz with 17 counts of first-degree murder and 17 counts of attempted first-degree murder. While in jail, Cruz was allowed to walk around in the day room to get some exercise. On the night of November 13, 2018, Sergeant Raymond Ray Beltran was on guard duty when he asked Cruz to not drag his sandals on the ground while he was walking because he might trip and fall. Cruz responded by giving him the middle finger and hitting Sergeant Beltran in the face. Cruz then tried to take Sergeant Beltran's stun gun. The two fought until Sergeant Beltran regained control and placed Cruz in solitary confinement. Fellow inmate Andrew Bryant said that Cruz was just lost in his mind and was probably intimidated by the other prisoners. Cruz was also quite famous in the prison, with both inmates and deputies constantly talking about him. Bryant said that he was speaking publicly about his observations of Cruz because he does not want Cruz to escape justice by pleading insanity. In Bryant's opinion, Cruz is not crazy and should get whatever is coming to him. Prison records show that Cruz sleeps a lot, eats infrequently, avoids eye contact with anyone, often sits with a blank stare and appearing to be deep in thought. He was cooperative, logical, and coherent. On April 24, 2019, the Broward County Clerk's Office determined that Cruz is entitled to half of a death benefit from his adopted mother's estate, valued at $864,929.17. Since he is splitting the death benefit with his brother, he would be getting over $430,000. His public defender said that he could no longer represent Cruz since Cruz is no longer indigent and can hire his own lawyer. This infuriated the families of the victims because this could lead to delays. On July 26, 2019, Judge Elizabeth Scherer determined that Cruz's confession could be released to the public. On August 8, 2019, TMZ published the video of Cruz's confession. Cruz's trial was initially scheduled to begin on January 27, 2020, but it was delayed to allow his lawyers more time to build their case. It was delayed again due to the pandemic. In 2021, Judge Scherer ruled that the use of derogatory words to refer to Cruz would not be allowed from prosecutors or witnesses. Judge Scherer held a hearing on October 20, 2021, where Cruz pled guilty to all counts relating to the shootings to avoid the death penalty. Cruz's sentencing began on July 18, 2022, but at the time of this video, the trial is still ongoing. In the aftermath of the shooting, not only did 17 people die, but 17 were injured, and even more people have been traumatized by this event. These people include Ashley Baez, who was shot in the leg and testified against Cruz. Juliana Gentile was working as a teacher's assistant who now has PTSD, flashbacks, and survivor's guilt. Brittany Sinich was an English teacher working on the first floor when Cruz opened fire. She tried to go back to work after the shooting, but it was too difficult due to the flashbacks, so she took a year off to deal with her PTSD and now teaches at a different school. She also has a YouTube channel where she talks about what happened. Nikolas's brother, Zachary Cruz, did not know how to deal with the psychological and emotional distress that he suffered because of his brother's actions. He tried to find some sort of closure and understanding by visiting the high school where the shooting took place. He was immediately arrested for the misdemeanor charge of trespassing, which typically has a standard bond rate of $25. However, upon hearing that Zachary was the brother of the notorious mass murderer Nikolas Cruz, the bail bond was increased to $500,000. Luckily, a good Samaritan named Andrea Hadjar paid the bond. She had to put down $50,000 to pay the bond. Hadjar did not even know the Cruz brothers or have any contact with them prior to paying the bond. She saw on the news that Zachary was being treated unfairly, and she decided to help him because she felt sorry for him. Nowadays, Zachary lives in a different state because he was tired of constantly being harassed and stared at because of what his brother did. Nexus, a legal services charity, paid for his moving expenses. He filed a lawsuit against the Broward County Sheriff's Office for victimizing him in an extortive campaign of intimidation because of the identity of his brother and dehumanizing treatment while he was in custody. This was settled for a payout of $3,000 to Zachary. He said that he just wants a fresh start and says that people don't need to be afraid of him. That's the end of this video. If you liked the video, click on the like and subscribe buttons. It just takes 2 seconds and it would really help me out. Check out my channel to watch the other videos about people who suck. References are in the description below.